Dame Harriett Baldwin.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker, and it's a pleasure to follow the Honourable Lady from the Gower. I don't think I wear quite as many hats as she does, but it was interesting to hear her perspective on today's budget, because I have a different one, Madam Deputy Speaker. I think my issue with today's budget is not the political choices that the Chancellor has chosen to make, because clearly she has the mandate to make any changes she wishes. My problem with today's budget is that it's a budget of broken promises to the electorate. I think that that's a dreadful thing to do in terms of trust in politicians, and I also want to highlight some of the economic choices that I think that the Chancellor has got wrong today. Turning to the broken promises, the first one was when, during the election campaign, the Chancellor said time and time again that she would not, and I quote, fiddle the figures. Today, she clearly has broken that promise. She has announced a multi-billion-pound change to the UK's borrowing, and she announced it overseas, Madam Deputy Speaker, and not first to this Parliament. I know how angry you and the Speaker are about that. And as we all know, and as the IFS have said, borrowing is not a free lunch. It will mean that there is more debt. It will mean that there is more debt interest spending. And I haven't had a chance to question the Office for Budget Responsibility yet in detail on their numbers, but I think from an initial look at their charts, it looks as if the amount of additional borrowing that was announced today by far exceeds anything in the mini-budget in late 2022. And we will be asking the Office for Budget Responsibility questions about that at the Treasury Committee. The second broken promise, Madam Deputy Speaker, that the Chancellor made during the election campaign was that her plans were fully funded and that she had no plans to raise taxes beyond those listed in the manifesto. In fact, colleagues have counted 50 times when she and the Prime Minister made that utterance. And I believe that that promise has been broken soundly today, and that a deliberate political choice has been made to announce the biggest unforced tax-raising budget ever. Unforced. Because during the election campaign, the Chancellor told the British public that taxes were too high. She said she wanted to bring taxes down. She has roundly broken that promise today, because the budget increases tax for every household in this country by possibly up to £10,000 over this Parliament, way beyond the £2,000 that we claimed during the election campaign, a warning that the Prime Minister himself said on national television was a lie. And so, Madam Deputy Speaker, the Chancellor campaigned on a general election strategy that I believe was deliberately designed to mislead the electorate. Her plans and the plans of the Deputy Prime Minister end up giving us German taxes with French labour laws, a recipe for higher unemployment if ever I saw it. The scale of the tax changes announced today on small businesses that employ more than 4 people are astonishing. The opposition benches will let that sink in. I will not give way to my honourable friend who so often gave evidence to the Treasury Select Committee, and I recall that I had to press him on the fact that NHS productivity has not yet returned to the level it was before the pandemic. If it was able to do that, he's told us on the record that that would be worth £20 billion in terms of additional NHS output. So, Madam Deputy Speaker, the Chancellor promised that she wanted to focus on growth. That is her mission. But I believe that more taxes, more public spending and more borrowing do not lead to growth. Indeed, if they did, then Venezuela would be one of the most prosperous countries on earth. What the Chancellor was planning all along together with her cabinet colleagues who have no experience of working in the wealth-creating, job-creating, tax-paying private sector, is a budget of the public sector, by the public sector, for the public sector. And she can't blame us, because in her first 25 days as Chancellor, she announced £25 billion of additional new spending, whether it was for Great British Energy, a National Wealth Fund, inflation-busting, backdated union pay rises with no productivity requirements. And I also want to speak up, Madam Deputy Speaker, for my farmers in West Worcestershire. Does the honourable gentleman want to stand up for my farmers? My farmers are some of the most productive and hard-working people in this country. They are the ones who put food on our table, and they are soundly disappointed by today's budget. There was no help or certainty in terms of their budget. There was no help for them in terms of agricultural property relief, handing on the family farm to the next generation. It will mean, and members opposite should know this, that there will be many family farms that will be broken up and will not be able to be handed on to them. I'm, as she can see, I'm not actually giving way at the moment. And as you know, Madam Deputy Speaker, Madam Deputy Speaker knows that the only way that we get true, genuine, sustainable growth in this country is through productivity and investment by the private sector. Anyone who's actually ever worked in business, I'm not giving way at the moment. I'm going to allow more time for others later on.
Ms Baldwin, the honourable member's made it very clear she's not giving way, so we should just allow her to continue.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. As anyone who's ever worked in business knows, you need to increase the productivity of your business. And then that investment in the business is linked to the profitability of that business. Profits that will fall as a result of the measures that have been imposed today on business are measures that I think will equate, when we work out the numbers, to something like 4p on corporation tax. I believe this is a budget of broken promises that will end up giving the British people less growth. You don't have to listen to me to hear that. You can actually look at the Office for Budget Responsibility, because they have seen a short-term boost to growth but a longer-term reduction in the sustainable growth rate of the British economy, thanks to the measures that the Chancellor outlined today. So in the months since she became Chancellor, we have the evidence, Madam Deputy Speaker. Already we have seen businesses shutting at double the rate that they were a year ago. Already we are seeing a plunge in business confidence, and we've heard the former chief economist of the Bank of England saying that the socialist narrative we've had since the election has generated fear and foreboding and uncertainty. This is a budget of broken promises. It's a straightforward breach of promises to the British public, and it is a dreadful day for the British economy.
We were just going to